Good morning. Let's see if Facebook is playing. It seems to be working. Amazing. Apologies for the delay in first chapter fun this morning. Technical issues, which are always such a treat. But it seems to be working. I can see myself, not that I particularly want to, but I can see myself on Facebook. I can see that there are lots of comments on Instagram as well. So I hope that this is going to be working now. Wonderful. Yeah, Facebook threw a wobbly. It does that sometimes. Just going to close that so it doesn't beep everywhere. But here I am. It is Tuesday, 11:30 Eastern Time, one of the days with a T, and that means it's time for First Chapter Fun. My name is Hannah Mary McKinnon. I'm an author, and for those of you who have not joined First Chapter Fun before, this is the place where my partner in fictional crime, Hank Philippi Ryan, and myself read the first chapter of other people's books, not our own, although that does happen sometimes when we have a new release. But we always read other people's novels. The days with a T, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, both on Instagram and on Facebook at the same time, because we are tech geniuses. Yeah, okay, we'll just leave that there, shan't we? Yes, of course we will. Of course we are. Now, I don't know if anyone's watching on Facebook right now. I can't see the comments. I'm going to just doodle something here real quick. See whether I can actually see it on the computer, on the PC. Oh yeah, there I am. There's my, yes, I see lots of comments. So this is really weird. Facebook is a pain in my butt. I'm there. I said it. It is. Sometimes it works. Other times it doesn't. But right now I am seeing the comments. Oh, I am seeing the comments on Facebook, and I am now seeing them as well on Instagram. So we're all set. Never a dull moment. So good morning. Thank you for joining. I see Hank. I see Linda. We're reading from Linda's book today. I see Robin, who lives in the same town as well. Jennifer Jumber. We have The Woman Who Walks. Do you walk a lot? I bet you must do. We have Al. We'll be reading from Al's book upcoming. We have Sharon During. We read from her book. She Lies Close. A couple of months ago, because this is actually episode number 84. 84, would you believe? So we've been doing First Chapter Fun since March 17th, every day until May the 8th, and now twice a week on Instagram at First Chapter Fun and on Facebook in the group First Chapter Fun. So if you haven't joined us on both, well, you must, because that way you can catch us on either of the platforms. Lots of people already joining. Daisy and Shannon and Susan on Facebook, and Bonner. So let's get started. Let me introduce you to today's book, which is a historical, it's actually a dual narrative, a dual timeline. So that means we have chapters set in the past, chapters set in the present, well, kind of present, 2010. And it is called The Disharmony of Silence by Linda Rosen. Apologies for having to tilt that a little bit, but that's the only way I'm going to get you to see this lovely, lovely cover. And you see that brooch there in the middle? That's because, well, I'm not going to tell you why, but it is significant, and it does play a big part in the story. So this is Linda Rosen's debut, and she is watching, and there's a giveaway. There's a giveaway for those people who are viewing live. If you're catching up on this later, well, hopefully next time there'll be one that you'll be able to join us live. So Linda is giving away a copy of The Disharmony of Silence today, which is so lovely. Thank you very much, Linda. And for a chance to win, just leave a comment, because Linda is watching. So you can leave a comment, leave a question, ask Linda some questions because she's here, she can answer them. On Instagram, the comments disappear. One of these Instagram quirks, of which there are a few. When we move the broadcast off, when we stop broadcasting live and then post it to our IGTV, the comments disappear. So make sure you leave a comment on both platforms, but on Facebook they stay forever, and Linda can come back and answer them. Also, If you suddenly might see my screen or your screen or me, whatever, if I suddenly disappear, screens go dark. Facebook and Instagram sometimes play tricks on us. And what I will do is I will come back to the platform that unceremoniously threw me out, and I will start reading again. So just sit tight, get yourself a cup of coffee or a tea, and I will be back and I will continue the reading. Or I'll start the reading again, depending on when they throw me out. It does happen. And now I said it, which I always do, and then all of a sudden it goes dark. Anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you're all sitting comfortably so I can introduce you to Linda Rosen and her debut, The Disharmony of Silence. So let me tell you a little bit about Linda, and I will then read the book for you. All right. So Linda Rosen's books are set in the not too distant past and examine how women reinvent themselves despite obstacles thrown their way. A central theme is that blood is not all that makes a family, and they always feature a piece of jewellery. Remember the brooch I mentioned? There's another clue. Linda lives with her husband, splitting their time between Florida and New Jersey. Her debut novel, The Disharmony of Silence, released on March 5th, right before COVID locked us all down, and still has some of us partially locked down at least. Is it ever going to go away? Oh gosh, I hope so. In addition to a novel, Linda was a contributor to Women in the Literary Landscape, a WNBA Centennial Publication for the Women's National Book Association, and has had stories published in online magazines and print anthologies. She's a member of the Women's Fiction Writers Association and the Women's National Book Association, where she's National Recording Secretary and Selections Coordinator of the Great Group Reads Committee, which chooses books for National Reading Group Month. Linda is thrilled to announce that her second novel, Sisters of the Vine, will be out next March. And you can find out lots more about Linda. You can follow her on Facebook and Instagram. The handles are the same. It's Linda Rosen Author. On Twitter, it's L Rosen Author, and her website is linda-rosen.com. So that's where you can find out all about Linda and her novels, including this one, The Disharmony of Silence. There we go. Great title, gorgeous cover. So let me tell you about the book. In 1915, jealous, bitter Rebecca Roth cuts all ties with her lifelong friends, the Pearls. 8 years later, Rebecca's son and young Lena Pearl begin keeping company in secret. Rebecca agrees to a truce when the couple marries, but the truce is fragile. Rebecca's resentments run deep. In 2010, Carolyn Lee, fitness instructor and amateur photographer, must come to grips with the fact that her mother's imminent death will leave her alone in the world. While preparing her childhood home for sale, she realises for the first time that her mother's antique brooch is identical to the one pinned to the lady's dress in the painting hanging above the fireplace. Coincidence or connection? Carolyn is determined to find out. What she discovers has the potential to tear lives apart or to bring her the closeness and comfort she longs for. It all depends on how she handles her newfound knowledge. Doesn't that sound intriguing? And I love these dual timelines with past and present. Tricky to write. My first and second ones, my first and second books had dual timelines, and I hadn't written novels before, so I didn't really think too much about it. And the first one was okay because it had one protagonist, but in my second book, in The Neighbours, I had dual timeline, past, present, and 4 point of view characters. So that was fun. So I'm always in awe of the dual narrative, because it's not easy to do dual narrative and dual timeline in particular, and also historical fiction. I've mentioned this before. I'm always in awe of authors who write historical fiction, such as Linda, because there's so much research that goes into it. There's so much detail that goes into it. And history buffs will know if you've used the wrong button or expression or whatever it may be. And yeah, that terrifies me a little bit. So that's why all of mine are no further back than the late 80s. Because I remember the late 80s, obviously. Anyway, let me show you that lovely cover again. And let's jump right in to chapter 1 of The Disharmony of Silence by Linda Rosen. Chapter 1, 1915. The Roths aren't coming. Yes, those were the words her mother had just said. Lena's heart sank. She lowered her head, hiding her watery eyes, then gripped the edge of the lace tablecloth and gave it a tug as if she, an 11-year-old, could change things. So that's why we didn't put the leaves in the table, she said, looking across the mahogany dining room set to where her mother stood. I don't understand. They always come for Seder. The early spring shone through the apartment window, lending a sense of purity to the lace cloth. Ida straightened her side. Bubbler, she said. I'm sorry. It's only the 3 of us tonight. She fiddled with her apron straps, adjusting and readjusting them. You know, Mama, I don't really care if Mrs. Roth comes. She's such a sourpuss. But what about Jack? Silently, Lena hoped there was some way 15-year-old Jack could still come. Ida furrowed her brow, although Lena detected a slight giggle in her mother's disapproval. Sure, her words were nasty, but no matter how close the two families were, Mamma knew Mrs. Roth always looked like she just sucked on a lemon. No, honey, none of them will be here. Lena sensed a deep sadness from her mother's flat voice and could not understand what could have happened to make the Roths so angry. The two families had been close friends back in the old country, and when Carl arrived in New York in 1905 without his family, he became part of theirs. Lena wasn't quite 2 when she met the man she called Uncle Carl, though she didn't remember that. What did stay in her mind was his bouncing her on his knee and singing Eufen Prepetchik. His hands always smelled like freshly ironed sheets. Lena watched her mother walk to the breakfront and open the leaded glass cabinet, then slowly pull 3 white dinner plates from her Pesach set. Ida looked at the plates in her hand and frowned. Papa said they had an argument over cards, and Uncle Carl refused to come. She put 3 soup dishes on top of the short pile, then shook her head and changed her tone. It was matter of fact, rather than disappointed. I called Rebecca, I mean Mrs. Roth, I know that's what she wants you to call her, and tried to convince her to let bygones be bygones. She wouldn't budge. What did they argue about? Lena said, hoping it wasn't serious, and that maybe she could coerce her mother to call again. Lena wanted so much to sit next to Jack, to see his big brown eyes light up as they sang Dayenu together, and all the other holiday songs. He made it so much fun. Papa didn't say. All I know is that it had something to do with the pinochle game. Ida placed the dishes on the table. Keeping her eyes averted from her daughters, she adjusted the bow on her collar and centered the brooch. Lena picked at the lace of on the edge of the cloth. Maybe Jack and his sister can still come. I want to see the baby. Ida sighed. No, sweetheart, none of them will be with us, though I'm sure you'll see the baby soon. She'll bring her over one day when her mother doesn't know about it. Ida spread her lightly freckled hands over the tablecloth, smoothing out the wrinkles the iron had missed. She fluffed the corners and placed a cut crystal bowl to the side of the Seder plate. Later she would float rose petals in it, a touch of elegance among shank bones, roasted eggs, and bitter herbs. Lena could tell her mother wanted to say something else. She watched her mother's mouth play with words, but nothing came out. Ida placed the forks and knives on either side of the china plates, adjusting and readjusting them, making perfectly straight lines of the shiny silver. Come on, Mama, be honest. You always tell me no fibbing. Fine, Ida said, and let out a long, slow breath. Mrs. Roth and Uncle Carl are very angry right now. They've got a lot on their minds, so she said they wouldn't be in touch with us, that none of them would. Ida hesitated a moment, and again Lena saw the sadness in her mother's eyes. Ida turned and walked toward the kitchen. In a very low voice, as if convincing herself, she added, until they get things straightened out. The click-clack from the elevated train on the corner rattled the open window. A little louder, Ida called over her shoulder to Lena, who remained steadfastly in the dining room, looking at the 3 place settings. Come on, let's check the pot roast. Lena followed her mother into the kitchen. The scent of beef with carrots and potatoes simmering on the stove, suffused with savoury herbs, perfumed the air. Her taste buds tingled as she schemed up ways to get to see Jack again. He always made her feel special and older, not like some little girl he had to put up with at holiday dinners. Plus, he made her laugh. If only she still lived across the river, it would have been easier. She often went with her mother back to the stores and shops on Orchard Street, where the vendors hawked their wares. Now, though, the Roths lived in the Bronx, and it was a major schlep to get there from Brooklyn. Plus, she had no reason to be in that borough. Her mother would never let her go alone. And she'd never bump into him in the corner candy store where all the kids from her neighbourhood hung out, like her friends did when they wanted to see a certain boy. There had to be some way. Maybe she could get her mother to suggest he come along with his sister when she brought the baby to visit. This fight between their parents, no matter how long it lasted, was not going to keep her from Jack. That was the delightful first chapter set in 1915 of The Disharmony of Silence by Linda Rosen. The next chapter, the chapter after this, chapter 2, is set in 2010. So you get the dual timeline and the dual narrative because you have a different character's perspective. So let me show you that cover again. I know it's tricky on Instagram, but I hope you can see it. There we go. I hope you enjoyed that chapter. Definitely one to check out. And don't forget to leave a comment because Linda is going to be giving one copy of The Disharmony of Silence away today for those who are watching live, which is very lovely of you. Thank you very, very much, Linda. That's very generous of you and we appreciate that. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of First Chapter Fun. Let me tell you what we have in store for you. So we've had historical fiction for you today, and on Thursday, hold on, I'm going the wrong way. On Thursday, we have not had very many science fiction books. We've had one actually, which was a beginning at the end by Mike Chen. That was towards the end of April, beginning of May, I think. But that hasn't happened on camera often before. Excuse me for that. So we are thrilled to say we have another science fiction book by Robert J. Sawyer, The Oppenheimer Alternative. This will be Thursday's read, so make sure that you tune in for that. Now, Glennie has just said this TBR is getting crazy. I know. My to be read list is just insane. What have you been reading? Actually, that's always a fun question to ask you. What everyone's been reading lately. I got a sneak peek, and I feel very fortunate. I got a sneak peek at Samantha Downing's next book. Can't tell you the title, won't tell you the title, but I will tell you it is amazing. I gobbled it up in, I don't know, a day or two. Absolutely brilliant. Samantha Downing is the author, of course, of My Lovely Wife, and he started it, and you'll find he started it in our archive. Which reminds me, if this is the first time you've ever watched First Chapter Fun, all of the previous episodes, 83 of them, are saved in our archive. So you'll find them on IGTV, but also in the media section of the new Facebook under videos, or just under videos in the old Facebook, depending if you've made the switch or not. So let me show you those two covers again. Today's read, The Disharmony of Silence by Linda Rosen. And Thursday's read, The Oppenheimer Alternative by Robert J. Sawyer, our second only science fiction book, which is really neat, and we're very excited about that. So thank you very much for tuning in today. Hope that we'll see you on Thursday. And as always, until then, please stay safe, stay kind, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks for watching.